Welcome to Season 2 of the Cryptopulse podcast, your ultimate guide to the world of crypto, Bitcoin, and world economics. We're here to guide you through the crypto universe with thought-provoking topics, in-depth knowledge, and information to help you make informed decisions. We'll also be interviewing some of the best minds in the industry, such as CEOs of crypto projects, traders, economists, authors, and development teams from around the globe. And now for the episode.
Hello and welcome back to the Cryptopulse podcast for another one of our epic episodes about crypto and macroeconomics. And this time round, it's a rather impromptu episode as we discuss the collapse of FTX and what that means for the rest of the crypto market. Ben, it's been quite a week.
Yeah, it really has. The collapse of FTX is really all anyone is talking about right now, and rightfully so, because the saga's ongoing and has made the last few weeks feel like years. So many questions are still up in the air. Where do we go from here? Are arrests going to be made? Are user funds going to be recoverable? And although we don't have all the answers, as this is all still a developing situation, we wanted to get everyone up to speed on what has happened, why it's happened, and all of the information we currently know about the situation and what the future holds for the crypto market. Because this is has been likened to our Lehman Brothers moment.
It's like Lehman Brothers with more detail of what's going on in real time, which is horrible and fascinating at the same time. And whilst things are so bad at the moment, this, I think, will be one of the crypto industry's biggest lessons ever. I'm absolutely convinced of that. So shall we start off by, if you're in the space, you probably know a little bit about what's happened, but for those that have kind of seen the news about FTX, we're just going to kind of give you a little bit of background about what happened. So the main character of this entire mess is, of course, Sam Bankman-Fried, who we'll refer to as SBF. The son of two Stanford law professors, Sam graduated with a Bachelor of Physics from MIT, and after graduating, got his first job as a trader for Jane Street, one of the world's biggest market makers. So in 2017, Sam realized there was lots of trading opportunities in crypto, and he wanted to capitalize on its potential. So he founded a company called Alameda Research, a Hong Kong-based private equity firm that would eventually turn into a major crypto market maker. Sam chose the name Alameda Research as he knew the scrutiny he would get from banks when applying for loans if he named the company, in his own words, shitcoin day traders. I kind of like that. Compared to if he'd named it something that he didn't seem too heavily involved in the crypto markets, which I understand. So Alameda made quick money by buying Bitcoin in the US and selling it to a Japan market, because at the time BTC was 10% cheaper in the US than in Japan. So some really simple arbitrage trading there. Sam has previously spoken about Alameda, saying that at the time Alameda traded every coin on every exchange. Alameda made massive profits, grew bigger and bigger, and was soon working with every major crypto exchange in some way or another, including Binance, who Alameda assisted with large over-the-counter trades.
Yeah, so Alameda has have an alleged history of risky trading tactics. And only 2 years ago, Sam Trabucco, former co-CEO of Alameda, revealed on Twitter on March the 12th, 2021, that the company were hours away from becoming insolvent when the market crashed thanks to the pandemic. And in 2019, SBF founded FTX, which was the crypto derivatives exchange that ended up being valued at around $40 billion. So FTX was everywhere. They sponsored sports stars, esports teams, F1 teams, and they actually renamed the Miami Heat arena to the FTX arena to say that they were big would be an understatement. So the question which everybody's asking is, where did it all go wrong? So as we know, we've been in a market downtrend for some time, and 3 weeks ago, SBS started getting criticized on Twitter after making a few unpopular statements about crypto regulation. His image was starting to shift from one of us to one of them, and one of them meaning the regulators and the traditional finance bankers. So an article posted by Coinbase on November the 2nd showed Alameda was way over leveraged on FTT coin, which is FTX's native coin. So out of Alameda's $14.6 billion of assets on the balance sheet, around $4 billion was FTT. Now, speculation started to occur that FTX pumped Alameda with a bunch of FTT to make it seem bigger than it actually was in order to get loans. And more speculation started spreading that user funds from FTX were finding their way to Alameda and that FTX didn't have enough crypto on hand to honor all user withdrawals. So just a massive case of being over leveraged, I think.
Yeah, I have so much to say on that, but let's just continue on this. So CZ, or CZ as we call it in the UK, but we'll go for CZ. I like the American pronunciation. CZ, the CEO of Binance, saw all of this. And Binance was one of the first investors of FTX and incubated FTX 2 years ago. But FTX started growing too fast. So about a year ago, Binance chose to divest from FTX during its $900 million funding round. This $2.4 billion divestment was paid out by Sam in Tether and FTT. Tensions started rising between SBF and CZ, not only because Sam wanted way more regulation than CZ wanted, the irony, but also because SBF often framed FTX versus Binance to political figures as a bigger USA versus China issue and stoked those flames often. Couple all of this with tension with the Coinbase article and allegations of FTX paying for journalistic hit pieces on CZ, and it explains why on the 6th of November this year, CZ announced on Twitter that Binance will be liquidating its FTT, stating, "We gave support before, but we won't pretend to make love after divorce. We're not against anyone, but we won't support people who lobby against other industry players behind their backs." Onwards.
Yeah, and after this, the CEO of Alameda, Caroline Ellis, posted an incredibly suspicious tweet offering to buy back Binance's entire FTT stake at $22 a pop as an OTC purchase. So this increased the speculation about Alameda using FTT as collateral to get crypto loans, but no on-chain evidence has come to light yet. CZ, unsurprisingly, declined the offer, so they dumped it onto the market. So I think after that tweet, FUD and speculation was in full force. Key figures on Twitter thought FTX and Alameda were insolvent. Alameda held millions of many other tokens, including USDT, SRM, LDO, just to name a few. And if Alameda were to fall, it would mean big trouble for not just these tokens, but for the rest of the industry. Within the next 24 hours, FTX experienced a net $1 billion in withdrawal. There was a huge run on FTX as people moved really quickly to try and remove their funds from the exchange. And then just a few days later, November the 8th, FTX halted withdrawals completely, which is never a good sign for an exchange. But in a huge twist at the end of the tunnel moment, CZ tweeted the same day saying, "This afternoon, FTX asked for our help. There is a significant liquidity crunch, and to protect users, we signed a non-binding LOI intending to fully acquire FTX.com and help cover the liquidity crunch. We'll be conducting a full due diligence in the coming days." Now, I think at this point, people thought that CZ had pulled off one of the biggest dick moves in crypto.
I thought so. I honestly thought so, Ben. I messaged you and said, "Oh my God, what a strategist. This is the best M&A, mergers and acquisitions move that I've ever seen in my life." So I was hoping that they were just going to acquire that and become bigger.
Totally. I mean, it would have been straight out of the Rothschild playbook, right? Absolutely. Crush a company, get them on their knees, buy them up at, at pennies on the dollar. But whilst there was hope that Binance might be able to keep FTX afloat so they could honor withdrawals, I think after 24 hours of looking through their books, they pulled out. And this was really the final nail in the coffin, as on November the 11th, SBF announced announced on Twitter that FTX, FTX US, and Alameda had filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and that he had resigned as the CEO of FTX. So it all happened very, very quickly. And to put into perspective how bad FTX's books were, the Financial Times reported that FTX had a 900 million in easily sellable assets against 9 billion of liabilities a day before it collapsed into bankruptcy. The largest portion of those liquid assets listed on an FTX international balance sheet dated Thursday was 470 million of Robinhood shares owned by Bankman-Fried. So they were heavily leveraged. Not a great situation. It opens a lot of questions about how much Sam could possibly have known about this. He tweeted a few days before this massive collapse that, everything was fine, FTX was solvent, things would continue as normal. And it really didn't take long for this to unravel. Mm. And I think you would need to be either staggeringly ignorant or a malicious actor to have allowed your company to get into such bad shape. And there's a lot of speculation in the industry at the moment about which one Friedman is.
Yes, and that's all going to come out in the wash, we hope, eventually. And I think it will take a long while and probably a few Netflix documentaries until we really understand exactly what happened. So a spreadsheet listing FTX International's assets and liabilities seen by the Financial Times point at the issues that brought Sam Bankman-Fried crashing back down to earth. It references $5 billion of withdrawals last Sunday and a negative $5 billion entry described as hidden, poorly, internally labeled fiat at account. Very odd. The vast majority of FTX trading record assets are either illiquid venture capital investments or crypto tokens that are not widely traded, according to the spreadsheet.
So in all, the spreadsheet says that FTX's trading assets were, as stated previously, 900 million of liquid assets, 5.5 billion of less liquid assets consisting of crypto tokens, and 3.2 billion of illiquid private equity investments. There is also an obscure 7 million holding called Trumplose. There are no Bitcoin assets listed, despite Bitcoin liabilities of $1.4 billion. So the company's biggest asset as of Thursday was 2.2 billion worth of cryptocurrency called Serum. And miraculously, I have no idea how this has happened, but they listed it as 2.2 billion on their balance sheet, but Serum's whole market value was only $88 million on the same day. So it does suggest that there's some pretty shady accounting practices going on here. And again, I go back to what I said about this being gross negligence or an outright scam. Obviously, we can't comment at this stage, but it certainly looks as though Sam was aware of some of this stuff.
Well, and also the size of this, there's more than just one person that could strategize this and put this all together. I mean, there were clearly many people involved with this. So one thing that is really important to mention is about the Serum protocol is that it was created and promoted by FTX and Alameda Research. They got all those Serum tokens for free as the initial backers of the Serum protocol. Presumably, they paid some startup costs. But as of Tuesday, 11th of November, Serum is worth 28 cents per token, down from its all-time high of this year's $3.64 per token. A lot of the most held crypto by FTX was either created thanks to the help of big investments from FTX like Solana, or created by FTX like MAPS, SRM, and FTT.
So I think to move on to the aftermath of where we're at now. So just to be clear, this story is ongoing and the aftermath is still being felt. But after SBF announced Alameda and FTX's Chapter 11, the market started moving down. As you can imagine, people were spooked by the incident and decided that they would dump their tokens. Bitcoin moved from that sort of 18,000 area down to, I think, about 15,000 at its lowest. It's now been confirmed, thanks to the Wall Street Journal, that FTX used up to $10 billion of user funds to prop up Alameda Research, and SBF's net worth dropped 95%. I think he was the quickest the quickest billionaire to go to a millionaire and officially bankrupt ever. But the drama doesn't stop, because on November 12th, FTX suffered then, after they'd announced their Chapter 11, a $400 million hack.
Oh my word. What are the odds?
Yes, what are the odds of that? Well, with many outlets like CoinDesk and Fortune pointing towards it being an inside job by a high-level insider. Well, I wonder who it could have been. I wonder if anybody at a senior level might have built some sort of backdoor system, some sort of fail-safe into the exchange. Should ever there be a disaster of this proportion, that they could just drain the reserves. Yeah. I'm not pointing a finger, but who knows?
Don't point the finger until we know for sure. The blockchain security firm Hacken investigated blockchain transactions and found that the looter tried to send Tether stablecoin to the Tron blockchain multiple times unsuccessfully, because they didn't have enough TRX, the Tron's network's native token, to pay for transaction fees. So the looter used their verified personal account on crypto exchange Kraken to send 500 TRX to the compromised wallets to cover the transaction fees. I have no words. I have no words, and I keep saying that to myself as we go deeper into this complete and utter mess. So Nick Parocco, Chief Security Officer of crypto exchange Kraken, recently tweeted out, "We know the identity of the user." A Kraken spokesperson said that the exchange is in contact with law enforcement and has frozen Kraken account access to certain funds we suspect to be associated with fraud, negligence, or misconduct related to FTX. Currently, Sam Bankman-Fried, co-founder Gary Wang, and director of engineering Nishad Singh are understood to be in the Bahamas and are under supervision by the local authorities. According to Cointelegraph, the three former FTX executives, as well as Alameda Research CEO Caroline Ellison, are looking for ways to flee to Dubai. Now, the projects that have been hit hardest from FTX and Alameda's collapse are logically the projects that have had direct exposure. Both entities are estimated to have invested in over 250 crypto projects. Projects like Solana, Aptos, Near, and ApeCoin have suffered 20 to 43% losses over the last 7 days, according to CoinMarketCap. I mean, and some of those aren't small, Ben, like Solana and Aptos is new, and Near Protocol, I was super interested in actually having them on the show. So it's not like it's really low market cap or altcoins that are effective. These are big blockchain projects.
Yeah, you're right. And I think it begs the question as to what is coming next. You know, I think the contagion for these types of fallouts, it can often be unpredictable. You know, when you have a network of money that is placed in lots of different places and being overly leveraged, and you know, with this much secrecy, you never know who is going to be tied up in this. And I think the next few weeks will be very interesting, because we'll no doubt be hearing from some big projects, funds, and you know, founders that are going to be letting us know that they've been hit by this. Every
time I go on Twitter, which I'm trying not to do too much at the minute, is I just see another tweet from quite big accounts saying somebody else has stopped withdrawals, or there's problems with another exchange. There's a Japanese exchange earlier on that I saw was in big trouble. So, I mean, this whole thing has got a long way to go until things get better. So if there was ever a run on a traditional US bank and all of its users withdrew their funds, the bank wouldn't be able to give everyone their money back, since they have lent it out to lots of different people and businesses. So they walk over to the Federal Reserve and ask for some money because they are too big to fail. But the Federal Reserve will give them some money, and the bank is safe, assuming most people believe in the dollar. So it's really important to realize that like leverage happens at all scales. But I think the big difference is the fact that banks aren't taking leverage on altcoins that have been minted by their own bank. So they may have investments in real estate and equities and things like that. And the reality is those don't drop by 50 to 60%. And then they have to pay those loans back within the next 24 hours. So it's a little bit different in that respect. But of course, there's no Federal Reserve in crypto. Whenever all those users rightfully withdrew their funds, FTX basically lost all their money like old-fashioned banks used to. You would think people would learn after Terra and Celsius and 3AC and Voyager and BlockFi, but most people believe that SBF was making crypto legitimate.
Yeah, this is an interesting topic that I've had a conversation about this week, which is, we had to create the Federal Reserve when we had these runs on banks because they had to be there's some centralized entity that would protect these banks if there was ever a run. However, with blockchain technology, where you have a distributed and public ledger, we don't need a central bank. We don't need a Federal Reserve for crypto. All we need to have is that these centralized exchanges list their assets in a transparent way. That I think the next bull run will be on the blockchain. We'll be able to see how much Bitcoin exchange actually has in reserve. I think that the issue has come about here because there isn't a really good structure around the way that these exchanges should be accounting. And I think that that's the thing that has led to this issue. So in some respects, we probably do need some regulation to make this better. But the beauty of blockchain is that we can see in a wallet what a particular company's got in reserve. And I don't think there's any reason really for a centralized exchange to be making money beyond their transaction fees. They don't need to be lending out customers money and leveraging their assets. It just doesn't make sense.
FTX and Alameda's collapse has put crypto firmly back in regulators' sights, left a lot of people in tough situations and deepened the gap, I think, between BTC maxes and the rest of the crypto world. Hindsight, of course, is a wonderful thing. You can see the red flags poking you out of interviews and actions that FTX took, whether that's SBF talking 3 years ago, alluding to a new margin system where we can take huge size and also have lots of leverage, or more recently where he talked to Bloomberg about creating value from nothing using tokens, or whether it's when Sam Trabucco and Brett Harrison started stepping down from their positions before financial investigators started to occur. As this story progresses, you can be certain that we'll be keeping an eye on it and all of the developments. This story isn't over and will likely cause ripples that will be felt for quite a while. And on that note, I'd like to end on the words of a chap called Guy from Coin Bureau, which is one of my favorite crypto YouTube channels. Crypto can't carry on without industry standards. The industry needs to adopt some, and pretty damn quick, before regulators swoop in and impose for harsher restrictions. If an exchange's reserves aren't audited and viewable, then nobody should have traded on it. Customer funds must be sacred at all times. They are not there to be toyed with by unaccountable degens. The biggest threat to the industry comes from outside of it, and thus a united front against those who would regulate it out of existence is vital. United we stand, divided or we fall.
Solid words. Yeah. This it'd be interesting to see how this plays out in the coming weeks. One thing I can probably say for certain is that no matter what happens from a macro perspective now, I think even if we see equities have a bit of a rally into the start of next year, I think crypto is probably going to suffer until there's some regulatory framework around this issue.
It breaks my heart really, because there's people that I talk to that are looking into the crypto and Bitcoin space and kind of thinking, oh, maybe I should get involved in this. Maybe I should buy some Bitcoin. And they're just completely spooked by things like this. And I do understand the Bitcoin maxi position. I get it. Like I get that this isn't anything to do with Bitcoin. Bitcoin fixes the money problem. It really does. The only thing that I don't like about Bitcoin maxis is that they want to fix the money problem before anything else crypto related is built. And I don't think that that's a great idea. I think having a Bitcoin standard across the globe is great, but it shouldn't stifle innovation anywhere else. So I'd like to think that we just see more decentralized exchanges. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see decentralized exchanges with, like you say, an open with an open book policy, so people can see exactly what they're holding and what assets they have. I mean, that just seems so obvious. And I think also these centralized exchanges will have to have so much more regulation, and they'll have to have more KYC, and it will really end up just being like the banking system. And the governments really will be thinking, fantastic, that's exactly what we want. We want more control, more power over this space.
Yeah. It's a good excuse to usher in more regulation and to probably regulate this in a way that benefits the wealthy and not the everyday person. You know, we're already seeing the banks are preventing the everyday person from depositing more than $1,000 to a cryptocurrency exchange. However, if you're a high net worth individual, you can transfer as much as you want. So I think sadly what will happen is it will make the crypto industry less inclusionary. I think you'll probably have a lot of people that are kept out of it, kept out of those life-changing wealth gains, and it will probably be once again concentrated with the wealthiest few. So it's sad, but yeah, I think there's still some great people building in this space. I think there's some great projects which will have massive impact worldwide. So, I remain optimistic that some good will come of this.
Yeah, I think we're in for a little bit more of a rough ride before things get better in the space, for sure. But just the size of what's happened, I really just hope it takes all of the crap with it, and we can have more of a clean slate. What's been really fascinating to watch for me is all of the extremely high-profile celebrities and entrepreneurs that bought into SBF's hype. They bought into it. They said it's a great investment. You've got Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank. You've got don't forget they did the Super Bowl advert as well, right? So you've got all of these really, really high-profile business people and celebs and actors and all sorts that got involved. And some of these, certainly the entrepreneurs and the highly experienced multi-million, multi-billionaire business people, you would have thought that they'd have some or want some more insight into how FTX was working and how it was built. And it just amazes me, to be quite honest, that some of these people were involved. And I say not involved in the demise, but involved in the business as an investor.
Yeah, well, I think if it's taught me anything is that human greed trumps all things, and it doesn't matter how incredibly sophisticated or wealthy you are, if you are, that greed creeps in, it'll get you at any level. Tom Brady, I think something like 650 million he's got tied up in the FTX, which he was expecting some mega returns, but that's not looking likely now.
It's certainly not. I mean, there's so much more that we could talk about, from rumors that the team were taking amphetamines regularly in the office, through to very some other
questionable acts.
Yeah, questionable acts and unprofessional behavior. But I don't really want to go too much into the weeds on this. I think it's a good place to end. Maybe we'll do a bit of a follow-up to this. Maybe we'll interview somebody that's got more information and is more in the know about this. But I would say that if you're listening to this and you're curious about crypto and Bitcoin, the prices of Bitcoin now are an all-time low for the last few years. It's a great, for me, this is what I'm doing, and this isn't advice to anybody else. I'm just buying small amounts still of BTC because I know that's going to be around in 10, 15, 50. It'll outlive me. So that's all I really care about. The rest of the space, we'll see. We'll see what's good. See what survives this. We've got our eye on a few. But I think the fundamentals of Bitcoin don't change. This is a mismanaged, which is an understatement, centralized business on a fiat standard that has collapsed due to what would seem incompetency at the very least.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think that's probably a good place to leave this saga for this week.
Yes, I think so. Well, good to chat. And the episode after this, we've got an epic interview coming up. So make sure, if you haven't done already, you subscribe to us on wherever you're listening. So thanks again.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. It would mean the world to us if you could leave a review wherever you're listening. This really does help and allows other people to find us online. You can keep up to date with new releases of the podcast by subscribing and following us on Twitter or Instagram for the latest crypto-related news. Information provided by Cryptopulse via this podcast, website, social media channels, and any other medium does not constitute financial advice, investment recommendations, or any other type of advice whatsoever. The Cryptopulse team are not professional financial advisors. Trading and purchasing cryptocurrencies do carry risks, and anybody wishing to partake in such activities should seek professional advice.